Yeah, 1 2 1 2.
Hey yo, AC.
1 2 1 2. Mic check. Hey, can y'all hear me out there? Hey. Against all odds. 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 Against all odds.
Oh, baby, it's Friday. Welcome to the Rise and Grind Morning Show, man. We're going to be getting into it today. We've got Riley in the house. We've got Eric, of course, each and every day. Rise and grind with these Detroit Lions NFL news and rumors. Man, Eric found a good one. The Detroit Lions going to be linked to what could be the largest human being ever to enter the NFL draft cycle. Could be. Very possibly could be. We're going to be talking about that individual here in just a little bit. Packed show again today. You know what happens. We try to get through all these topics. We never do because we get off and running. Josh Reynolds, former Detroit Lion, found a new place to dwell for the season. And what else? Alex Anzalone had something positive to say yesterday. And we'll talk about the Lions defense this year. John Morton, what he wants to do with his Detroit Lions offense. And Riley's got a few topics here about Jared Goff and a few other things. So we're going to be getting into it today. Let's get the gentleman in the house. Welcome to the Rise and Grind Morning Show. Let's get it rolling. Eric, Riley, good morning. What's happening?
Good morning, Will. It's Friday, and it's the first day of the UFL. So I wore my Jake Bates jersey today, just in honor of the UFL kicking off today.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Riley, what's happening with you?
Yeah, just ready for Friday morning, man. It's so cool for me to be able to join and be part of the show of the Rockhound community. And yeah, I remember last year, again, going back and listening to the old videos, it was early on that Will had a good pulse on Jake Bates being a stud kicker. So it's only appropriate. Yeah, Eric, I think that was a great decision for that jersey in honor of Jake Bates and the UFL.
You know what? Let's kick it off a little, Jake Bates.
Jake Bates from 57. There's the snap kick on its way. It is up and it is good.
Dude has been absolutely stunning in his first real season kicking in the NFL. And, let's just go off topic since you brought up Jake Bates. Mm-hmm. Last year, Eric, we had a conversation before you went to the game, but you were at one of the UFL games at Ford Field where you had an opportunity to speak with Jake Bates. And I remember you saying that, yeah, you gotta come to Detroit. You got to be a Lion. And he kind of gave you the PC answer.
Yeah, I told him he was going to be a Lion.
Yeah. And so we all expected it. I mean, a lot of us expected it. I mean, I was hoping, right, that the Lions would be smart enough to make that move.
Last thing I said to him was, don't let Brad let you out of the building.
Right. Well, I don't think that they did. I think they did a good job. And,
yep.
There's obviously some kickers that are going to be coming in this season from what we've seen already with who they've, talked with, who they've met with. They need extra legs in camp. You don't want Jake to burn himself out. Yep. I've seen and read things where they're saying, well, is Jake not going to be our kicker this year? Why would Jake not be the kicker? Give me one good reason why he wouldn't be the kicker. I mean, he was smashing records last season for what essentially a rookie has done in the NFL. And he even beat out, I think, all of Jason Hansen's records, at least not the points ones, but I think the individual points per year. I think he beat that one as well. So.
You guys remember that game winner at Houston? I know you do, but and it was that close. And that was one of those moments I'll never forget last year because that felt like we robbed a win in Houston last year, and just an incredibly fun game to watch that just barely squeaks by the goalposts. And
we definitely robbed the win. I mean, the Lions barely squeaked that game out. It's not often that you have 5 interceptions and you're able to pull it out,
Yeah, no, for sure. That was amazing. It was such an incredible win. And to me, it was you remember Goff walking off the field with Campbell and telling him, like, we're just different, man. I was convinced at that point, like, dude, this team's going to go all the way, and woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Yeah. Right. Well, this year, I've already adopted the channel's new mantra, and I haven't discussed it with you guys yet. We haven't even offered it up to anybody, like as far as what do you think about this? But if you haven't noticed, the new intro, what they say is against all odds. And that is, last year was evolution, right? Evolution of the team, the way that the team was evolving, you know, the way that Brad drafts, the way this team is being built. This year, it's against all odds. And I feel like, yes, it will be a t-shirt here coming soon. But the Lions are going to do what they're going to do this year against all odds. They went up against it last year. They went through the grinder, man. It was like a meat grinder week in and week out after week 6. Once you lost Aiden Hutchinson, a large part of the fan base kind of just threw their hands up and gave up. But those of us that dug in and dug our heels in and went through that grinder with them, we understood the impact that Dan Campbell was having on this team. So this year, it's against all odds. There's no way it can be as worse as it was last season with injuries. And I will knock on real wood here to say that because I don't like to put that stuff out there. But if they happen to go through it again, they've been through it. They know how to handle it. They have the right people in the building to manage it. And they're going to get better this year because of it. So against all odds, what do you guys think?
I like it. And the Lions have been there, done that. So if something does happen, they're not going to lay down and take a bath just because somebody got injured. You know, where other teams that were healthy all the time, like the Bills, you know, they lose one of their starters on defense or offense, their season's done. You know, it might be like the 49ers with their situation.
Yeah. I think it took a special group, obviously, to do what the Lions did last season, and it did. I mean, let's just be honest. There's not really many teams out there that have ever pulled off 15 wins, let alone 15 wins with, at one point, I think it was 21, maybe more than 21 players that went through IR. I mean, I've totally forgotten now because there's been so many. But I know that through week 14, I think we had 14 guys, and by week 18, we had 16 guys. And then by the first playoff game, I think we had 17 guys when Amik Robertson went down. So throughout the season, more than 30 guys, I think, touched IR at one point or another starting in training camp. So over half your team, come on. So that's why I have all of the positivity in the world right now with where this team is headed.
That's good. It's refreshing. And that's one thing I love. You get that at this channel in this show, but it's genuine. It's not fabricated. It's not forced. It's Will's honest opinion and honest take of the team. Eric, I know it's the same for you, that we are optimistic, but for reason, you know, and I'm excited to see. I think the team's going to be full of piss and vinegar next year. Just not a ton of talking, just show up ready to camp ready to go. And be on a mission this year. They're out for getting what we should have had last year.
Absolutely, we're positive. I know that I'm a little bit more realistic or analytic, and I don't let my feelings, you know, get hurt or get involved. It's hard to do, right? Because you know, you're being a fan, you want to be optimistic, but at the same time, to do something like this, I think you have to be measured in your approach and in your response, right? It's in that I know I get feedback, you know, from it daily. You know, some people are like, "What the hell, Will? Like, normally I agree with you on everything." Well, that's great. We can agree to disagree on a few things. It's okay. Just remember, I respect what everyone else thinks. I may disagree with it. I may have an argument against it, but I still respect it. Like, that's your opinion. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. There wouldn't be 1,000 different writers writing crap every day if there wasn't a bunch of opinions. But what I do see is the same people using the same type of article day after day after day. So, all right, let's get into it. Enough of the off-the-cuff stuff, right? Eric, kick us off here. What's going on in the NFL with Under Armour?
All right. The NFL has announced Under Armour as an official footwear and glove partner. Under Armour and the National Football League today announced a long-term partnership under which Under Armour will become an official footwear and glove partner of the NFL. Under Armour's partnership with the NFL will include the following components. The NFL will support Under Armour grassroots initiatives such as the Next platform to perform, to promote youth sports and development. Under Armour will receive rights and IP to include UA logos on field UA footwear and gloves. So Under Armour footwear, gloves, and they might have something on the field. And then Under Armour will have access to NFL media platforms, content creators, and distribution channels to further collaborate on content and initiatives for on-field and in-game exposure. So you're going to be seeing lots of Under Armour shoes and gloves. Hopefully they come out with some new receiver gloves. That'd be awesome, because the ones they put out now are kind of lacking.
I like the receiver gloves that they've had, especially the Nike ones. Matter of fact, I have one of the Nike ones from last year that Jahmyr Gibbs threw to me, and I love these things. And you have to remember too that, like, just like their shoes or their cleats, this is something that I came to realize yesterday, actually, listening to LeBron James for a moment on the Pat McAfee show. But I had a conversation with a shoemaker the other day, because I was asking them, like, man, like, these shoes, like when they make LeBrons or anything else, there's no way these NBA players are wearing these shoes. There's no way these NFL football players are wearing this cleat, and they're not. Maybe some of them can fit into a standardized cleat, but the majority of football players, basketball players, have wide feet. And if you notice, Nike doesn't come in wide sizes. LeBrons don't really come in wide sizes. I put on a pair of LeBrons the other day because they were blue and they had a lion on it. And I'm like, man, these are perfect, right? This might be my new shoe for the year. But they're just not wide enough. And so I had a conversation. I called them and I said, hey, can I get these in a wide? Do you even have them? They said no. And I said, well, what are these basketball players wearing? And they said they're custom shoes. You know, they're $700, $800, $900, $1,000. They're custom. They're custom made for the player. I said, I get that, but how come I can't get a wide shoe? You know, like, it just doesn't make any sense. Why don't they have wide shoes? And it's not like my feet are ungodly wide. I mean, I don't have Bigfoot feet, but I just needed to be a little bit wider. Even going up in a size didn't work. So I guess to say all that is to say that I really like the Nike stuff. I just don't like some of the Nike shirts in that. But this glove.
Well, see, my thing with the gloves that Nike put out, they're kind of bland. They don't have the team logos on them, and they're not fun. Like, I have some gloves from Reebok that are awesome, that have, you know, you put your hands together, they got the Lions logo on them.
Yeah, that's the old school ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they still have some of those.
Yeah, but like now it's just all black or all white or black and white. And it's like, come on, put the team colors in there. At least make it fun.
Well, this was the Storm one. So this one obviously was meant for the weather in Green Bay, right? And this is just it's not their normal, I don't think it's their normal attire. It's an approved glove. Yeah. But no, their game worn gloves are typically better, different than what you're going to be able to get at the store. But no, I like these because they got that I don't know, leather, plastic, rubber, whatever it is, it's sticky against the football, you know?
Yeah. Because I have a pair of Anza gloves that he actually wore in a game. And when you look in the inside, his name is actually in the glove. His jersey number is on the top of the glove. And it's like that formed plastic or rubber, you know? So it looks really good. They're really sharp. And I'm like, man, they need to put some of that.
I'm gonna have to get Gibbs to autograph the inside of this.
Yeah, there you go.
Because he doesn't have his name in there. But now that it's dry, we can get it done.
Oh yeah, remember how wet and soaking that game
I was soaked.
Oh, God. I was just gonna say, I remember when you posted that photo too, Will. Yeah, it was. I think you had like a photo kind of right at the view. So he just run right in front of you and just toss?
Like, yeah, he came right up. He was running in, and then he came up and tossed him up. But I could only snag one because I was so wet, right? And I had my phone in one hand. I couldn't reach out and grab both of them, so the other one fell, which is not a big deal. But I wasn't going to get out on the field like that. That's not what I'm going to do. So
go for it. Do your own Lambo leap.
Then I'll end up in jail for the night. Like, that's not fun. Yeah, like, I don't like to go to jail. Like, that's not part of my daily habit. So anyway, Under Armour. So yesterday, big announcement, by the way. So tomorrow morning we'll have Nick Scorton's father on. I'm not sure if Nick is joining yet or not. I'm hoping that he is. I'll find out hopefully today if he is. But at a minimum, I sat with the Scorton family at the combine, and great conversations. Like, I'm sitting with them the whole time, didn't even really recognize who they were at the moment. And after we got introduced, great conversation the entire time. I mean, just such a nice family. A lot of great things to say, not just about Nick, but about Shamar Stewart and some of the other guys, right? They know, obviously, a lot of the guys that are in this draft have relationships, and the positive energy that I took away from all of these conversations, man, I had to get this guy on. I have to. I want to understand the Nick Scorton from the family perspective, right? Just who is this guy? What are we getting if the Lions do end up with Nick Scorton? And then he sent me a video. So that's how it started. Yes, he sent me a video yesterday. He must have been up in the press box or up in one of the boxes watching the on-field performance, pro day performance. And he sent me this video, and it was a little grainy. And I'm like, wow, like you could see a different Nick than what I saw at the combine. Only reason why I'm mentioning this is because of the shoes. He had issues with his shoes at the combine. They kept falling off, but he wasn't the only one. There was multiple players that were having problems. So I texted him back and I said, hey, his shoes stayed on. And I'm laughing. And he says, yeah, he taped him up. You know, he taped him up. I don't know if he really taped him up, but that's what he said. He taped him up. So smart move, right? You don't want to have another, bad outing because of shoes falling off, because that's what I needed to see was what can he do. And so this was kind of like the half hoop drill where they're showing bend and burst, lateral agility. And man, he blew right through it. Shamar did a good job too, but Nick was far and away better in this instance. So anyway, I'll share that video at some point later on today. I'm going to try to clean it up a little bit. Then he sent another one, which was an overhead view of kind of the same thing. So that one I did share in the member chat. Pretty cool stuff, man. But I can't wait to have this conversation with Mr. Scorton tomorrow. I hope I'm even saying his last name. I'm going to have to ask him how to pronounce his last name, because I've heard Scourton and I've heard Scorton and I've heard other things, but I need to make sure. Yeah. Super impressive guy. Look, I think that Nick is going to be one of the biggest surprises out of this draft. Whoever gets him is getting a day one starter. And his pro day just solidified that. So super excited about that tomorrow. So I know we have something to talk about with the Dolphins, but let's skip to the Bears and we'll come back to the Dolphins. What do we got going on with the Bears, Riley?
Yeah, so this one is, I know it's not going to be music to the ears of most of our audience here, but ESPN's put out their recent updated projected win total for across the league. And the Chicago Bears came in at an 8.5 win projection. So it turns out that it isn't just fans of the Chicago Bears who are expressing.
Kirby just picked off.
Sorry, I don't know what happened there.
Kirby Joseph happened. No, that's awesome. Yeah. So look, we all know, man, the Bears are like offseason champs every offseason, but this year for sure, there's more optimism from even outside of the organization with this was the same win projection that they had last year, which was 8.5. We know how that turned out. However, with an overhaul in leadership and year 2 of Caleb Williams, there is belief by some in the Chicago Bears making big improvements this season. However, there was a lot of work required to build up the roster around Williams. GM Ryan Poles is doing a great job so far this offseason. Joe Tooney and Jonah Jackson are massive upgrades over Tevin Jenkins and Matt Pryor. Drew Dahlman is a massive upgrade over almost every center who has started for this team since Olin Kreutz.
Sure about that?
You sure about that?
Sure about that? You sure about that?
Say that.
So the Bears have taken their measurements to protect their prized quarterback. So the writer, now this was Brian Perez of Sports Illustrated, says, as a result, the Bears will win more games than they did last year. ESPN has that win total increasing by potentially 4 games. It's a fair starting point, but the ceiling for Chicago's 2025 season is even higher. So I guess that brings me to the question: who is, in your mind, Will, the biggest threat to the Lions in the NFC North? I feel like it's our division to win again. We are the defending champion NFC North. People sometimes have an issue as a fan if you say we, like you're part of the team. But I feel like I'm part of the team, I guess. But who is the biggest threat for you in the NFC North, Will?
I overuse we all the time because when you're so invested,
Yeah.
it's just part of it, right? It's one
Yeah.
of those things I've got to learn to separate. It's hard, but everybody has work to do. So you asked me who's the biggest threat in the NFC North this season for the Lions?
Yeah, and I guess really, I mean, is Chicago, are you buying it, right? Because we know, like I said, every year we all know it's offseason champions. Are you taking Chicago serious? I feel like I probably am, but I was last year too. I thought the Bears were going to be better than the Vikings were going to be last year.
Well, I was pretty straight up with the Bears last year. I said that they were going to be trash, and they were. They had 5 wins. So if their expected win total is to add 4 games, that means they're going to be 9-8. They'll probably miss the playoffs. They definitely won't win the NFC North. When I look around the NFC North, obviously the Bears made some improvements, but the Vikings might trail off because they are going to be starting J.J. McCarthy. They massively improved their defense. If the Vikings win a lot of football games, I think it's going to be because of their defense. Maybe not so much the offense this year. Then again, if JJ can just hit the 8 to 12 yard pass consistently, he has a couple of wide receivers that can extend those plays. So I'll say right now, I'm going to give Packers the number 2 spot. I'm going to give the Bears the number 3 spot, and I'm going to give the Vikings the number 4 spot. And I think it's simply because you're starting a rookie quarterback with the Vikings. They've massively improved their defense. It is going to be a tough defense. The Bears, with Caleb, at least he put up over 4,000 yards. You could see that there was some promise there. If they do not improve their running back room, I think that's a problem. But they're going to be right there in the hunt for Gianti, which if they get Gianti, then all bets are off. I think the Bears have done enough to be competitive this year and win a few more football games, but I don't think that they're going to beat the Packers, and they're definitely not going to beat the Lions. I think the Lions have an opportunity to sweep it again. If anything, maybe one loss in the division. Our away games and our non-divisional schedule is incredibly difficult, so the Lions have to win every game in the North. They have to. They have to win every game. Our non-divisional schedule is nuts.
It's brutal.
So, it's brutal. Eric, what do you think?
Well, I found something yesterday, and this is from a Vikings writer. The Vikings' unwillingness to commit to J.J. McCarthy tells us one of 2 things. McCarthy's injury was a lot worse than anyone realizes, or they have absolutely no faith in him. Not committing to him as your starter is wild. So I am going to put the Lions in first place, the Packers in second until somebody proves me wrong. And then I'm going to put the Vikings in third and the Bears in fourth until someone proves me wrong. Now, the Bears have done all this great stuff. They brought in all these linemen, right? Defensive and offensive linemen and all these players. They spent all this money. Same thing with the Vikings. They spent all this money, brought all these guys in. They're going for it all. They're doing what Jerry Jones said he was going to do last year, and they're going all in, right? I've never seen it work. I've never seen the teams that spend the most in free agency come out and have just a gangbuster season. I don't know one. There's never been one win a Super Bowl, that's for sure. So they can be preseason champs all they want. They can win the offseason. I don't care. The Lions are doing things the right way, and the Packers are doing things the right way. I'm going to give them their flowers this morning. So I'm going to put Lions and Packers, and then I would say Vikings and Bears. And Bears, not only because they were such a bad team last year, but they're transitioning to a whole new scheme, whole new coaches, whole new everything. Are they going to run the exact same defense? They're not running the exact same offense. Their new offense is going to be a cut and paste of what Ben Johnson did with Detroit, as far as we know. So I just, it takes time. When the Detroit Lions put together, they didn't get it in year one. We didn't make the playoffs. We went 3-13-1. So I expect something like that, maybe one more game than they won last year. So maybe 5 or 6 wins for the Bears this year. That would be my prediction.
You know, it's an unusual
5
thing
or
when
6 wins?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say.
Eric giving the
I say
Green Bay
7 for
Packers
the
flowers.
Vikings. What's that?
Eric giving the Green Bay Packers flowers.
I am. I'm going to say the Packers get 9 wins again, and I'm going to say the Vikings get 7 and 5 or 6 for the Bears.
Okay, let's do this. On Monday's schedule,
Sure.
let's go over NFC North.
Sure,
Or actually,
we can do that.
you're in what, Tuesday or Wednesday, Riley?
Tuesday, Wednesdays, Fridays.
Okay, so let's do it on Tuesday.
Okay.
Let's go around the NFC North. We'll look at the schedules. We'll kind of break it down based on strength of schedule currently and strength of roster currently before the draft. And let's kind of run through it and see what we think. Let's do that on Tuesday.
And just one quick thought too, as I'm thinking that I don't know if you've given a more glowing review of a player than you did yesterday on Ashton Gianti. And I'll tell you what, man, I anybody but Chicago. I guess I don't want him to go to Green Bay or Minnesota either, but I don't want him in the backfield with. Could you imagine if he's in their backfield and Caleb Williams starts getting really, really good and only breaking out and extending plays and doing that all within confinement and within an offense? Gianti would be perfect, it seems, in Chicago. I mean, you were
1,000%.
effusive in your praise with him.
That's why I mocked him. Let me put it this way. I do not want to see Ashton Gianti in Washington. I don't want to see him in LA. I don't want to see him in Chicago. I don't want to see him in Minnesota. I definitely don't want to see him in Green Bay.
Yeah, go to the AFC.
Go to the AFC. Like, let's see you late in the postseason. Shoot, what about the Chiefs? He's not going to slip to 32. Maybe if somebody moves up, but stay the hell out of the NFC North and definitely don't go to the West.
He wants Dallas.
Yeah, that's what he said. I mean, that was my first mock was Dallas. My second was Chicago. And especially now after a little bit of free agency, I think that it's shaping up that Ben Johnson's going to snag a running back. They're going to get a running back somewhere. Swift is not the answer. For all we know, Swift could be traded on in the draft. All right, let's walk it back here for just a moment. Big news next is this big defensive tackle that could be linked to the Lions. But let's talk about the Dolphins. Like, this is an epic mistake by the NFL, Eric. Like, this makes me question everything right now with all of these void years and how many have they missed?
Yeah, this was a big mistake, not only by the Miami Dolphins, but by the NFL itself. So the Miami Dolphins, who were scheduled to pick 11 times in the 2025 NFL draft, have been docked a draft pick after the NFL revisited a compensatory pick awarded to the team earlier this month. The NFL giveth and the NFL taketh away. The 2025 compensatory pick was awarded to the Dolphins upon news that receiver Cedric Wilson Jr. would be joining the New Orleans Saints. However, a mistake was made by the NFL in the contract examination of the wide receiver, who tallied 211 yards and 1 touchdown in the 24-25 season. Cedric Wilson Jr. reworked his contract with Miami back in 2023 and was operating on a void year this past season. A void year is a contract tool that allows 1 year's pay to be spread over 2 seasons and is reserved for players who are not guaranteed to play. Due to NFL rules, this means that Cedric Wilson was technically released by the Dolphins in 2024. This contradicted the previous belief that Wilson was an unrestricted free agent last offseason, making the team ineligible for draft compensation on his behalf.
It's crazy.
And on a side note, the Dolphins had been awarded 4 compensatory picks, and that is the maximum amount of picks. So now they only have 3.
How do you miss something that big? Like, how does the NFL? I mean, I'm glad they caught it, but could you imagine if they went through the draft and they ended up using this compensatory pick, and then after the draft they said, "Oh, you weren't supposed to have that pick," and so what was the pick that they took away?
It was the 7th round. It was 3 picks before the end.
Okay, so I mean, it was a Mr. Nobody, not irrelevant, but Mr. Nobody. But what would have happened if they would have traded a bunch of picks and moved up and ended up getting a really good football player, and then now they're like, well, you weren't supposed to have that. So, I mean, how would they remedy that? I think that they would probably have to take away a pick next year, and then possibly even deeper than that, it could, whatever combination of picks, maybe if a team moved up or back, they'd have to take some additional picks. Like, that's an epic mistake. Again, I'm glad they caught it, but now it makes me question how many other teams with all these void years, right? These contracts are getting silly and they're getting very complicated, and it definitely makes the NFL's job a lot harder. But something as simple as this shouldn't have been missed. Let's see. We talked about Chicago. We got the big one here coming up, and I wanted to. So I got more Lion stuff. You guys have all this other stuff. Now, Desmond, Eric, this is a phenomenal find, and this guy absolutely watched his video. I might bring it in here in just a moment. Yeah. But I watched his video this morning at like 5:30, and I was impressed. And not only was I impressed, but is this another Broderick Martin pick potential? And this is why when Brad Holmes does the things that he does, somebody like this you almost cannot ignore to have on your roster. So who is Desmond Watson? What happened yesterday, and why is this such an amazing opportunity for any NFL team, but potentially the Detroit Lions?
Well, I was scrolling on social media yesterday, and I came across this meme about this guy that's going to be coming out in the draft this year that might shatter the record for the heaviest player ever in the NFL by like 50 pounds. And I was like, whoa, what is this? So I started doing a little digging, and I found an article about this guy. So Desmond Watson is a defensive tackle from Florida, and he is making headlines as he could potentially shatter the record for the heaviest player ever drafted in the NFL. The current record holders are offensive lineman Trent Brown from Florida in 2015 and Daniel Falele, Minnesota in 2022. Both tipping the scales at 380 pounds. However, Watson stunned scouts at Florida's Pro Day when he weighed in at an impressive 464 pounds, up from 449 last season, 435 as a junior, and 415 as a sophomore. Standing at 6'6", Watson's size is not just about weight, it's about athleticism. And Watson's performance at the Pro Day went beyond just his weight. He bench pressed 225 pounds, a remarkable 36 times, leading all competitors at this year's combine. His former teammates and coaches have lauded his athleticism and his work ethic. So a lot of his former teammates had stuff to say about this kid. Defensive tackle Joey Slackman said he moves way better than anybody thought he would at his size. Florida defensive back T. Bridges added, Dez is a really talented, athletic guy. We all see it. Then Cam Jackson, another former teammate, noted, Dez shocked a lot of scouts, especially with his 40-yard dash. A lot of big guys can't move like he can. He's working to get his weight down, and I believe a team will take a shot on him. You don't find many nose tackles with his mobility. Dez is a big, disruptive force who puts in the work. Now, Watson clocked a 40-yard dash at 5.93 seconds at 465 pounds and recorded a vertical jump of 25 inches. While these numbers may not seem stellar, they are impressive for a player carrying an additional 100 pounds compared to his peers. Reflecting on last year's combine, I recall the anticipation surrounding Trevante Sweat, who was projected to weigh over 350 pounds and the largest prospect invite. Both Will and I were excited to see for his comparison. So, hey, Will, why don't you walk us through this comparison part since you put this part together?
Yeah. So last year, Eric and I are at the combine, and there was a few players that we really were impressed by, but also excited, right? Anticipation was high. It was Byron Murphy, big tree trunks for legs. It was Trevante Sweat, the 350 plus pound prospect that ended up weighing 366 pounds. And there's a few others like the Jared Versus, Braden Fisk. So as we're sitting there, we're waiting for Trevante Sweat to do this, and you think, man, there's no way this guy's going to come in and just, blaze the trails here, right? He's not going to have a good day. But he did. 366 pounds. Trevante Sweat ran a 40-yard dash at 5.27 seconds. So for a guy that big, 6'4.5" inch, 366 pounds, you're running 5 1/4. He's extremely good, especially when you compare it to some offensive linemen that aren't even doing that. And then you compare it to a guy like this guy, Desmond Watson, 464 pounds, and he runs a 5.93. And he's able to drop the weight, right? He probably will be able to drop the weight. Imagine if he does drop 100 pounds. Imagine how much faster, bigger, stronger, lighter on his feet he's going to get. And I'm not saying he needs to lose 100 pounds, but even if he shaved off 50 or 30, like he's going to get increasingly faster at what he does. 6'6", right? Compared to Sweat 6'4.5". Vertical jump 25 inches for Watson compared to Sweat's 26. The dude weighs 100 pounds more, and he's able to leap 2 feet off the floor. It was crazy enough that Sweat was able to do that at 26 inches. And this guy pulls it off at 25. Now, our arm length and hands measurements are up in the air right now. I don't have those. I've been looking for it. Can't find it. Maybe I'll find it later on today. I'm going to have to visit Florida's site and see if it's up there. But Sweat was 33 1/4 inch with 10 1/8 inch hand. So as long as he's somewhere close to that, I would be okay with that. This is what impressed me the most. When Watson was was he a junior or a sophomore? I think he was a sophomore, and he reported a max bench of 520 pounds and a max squat of 720 pounds. Now, with the right training staff, these numbers are likely to have already improved, if not improving later when he becomes a pro. So the Gators head coach, Billy Napier, praised Watson's unique attributes at the pro day. And he stated that, quote, Dez is a unicorn. You'll go your whole career without encountering someone of his stature. He's extremely intelligent, has a great sense of humor, and was a fantastic teammate. He showed up in great shape today. At 464 pounds, that's great shape for him. And I hope that he makes the most of his opportunity, and he did. And so since arriving on the campus in 2021 at Florida, former coach Dan Mullen described him as a 385-pound athlete. So he was 385 pounds in 2021. Watson has worked diligently to manage his weight. Napier, head coach of Florida, elaborated that, quote, he's had numerous nutritionists, position coaches, and strength coaches. This past year, we executed our plan better than ever, and I believe that he played the best football of his career. He learned about habit building and self-discipline. His frame indicates that he'll always be a big man, 6'6", with significant density and bone structure, end quote. So Watson has never missed a game. Now, you would think that for a guy this size, that they're unathletic, they're unhealthy, that they're going to constantly get injured. No, he's never missed a game in 4 seasons. His size, his strength were on full display during yesterday's pro day. And I think that throughout his professional journey, it's going to be fun to watch where he goes, what he does. I'm not saying that he's a top, draft pick at all. But as the draft approaches, I think that all eyes are going to be on this kid and where he does end up, because he stands on the brink of NFL history for his size alone. Do the Detroit Lions have interest in bringing in another dominant nose tackle? We've seen what they've done with Broderick Martin, like I started with earlier. Why wouldn't you bring in a 460-pound defense? I mean, imagine now that he's able to take up 3 blocks. You're not going to be able to just double team this kid. Go watch his tape. Like, he may not be a sack artist, right? He may not move extremely fast, but you are now eliminating wherever he's lined up, you are not running the ball. And you're not running the ball in the next gap over either. So if he's going to eat 2 gaps, why wouldn't you have? I mean, if you had him and DJ Reader on the line at the same time, and then you had Aiden Hutchinson and whoever else, even a Lee McNeil, you go 3 DTs, a 1 D end, and you bring in 3 linebackers, that'll give you a nice push. That'll give you a nice rush at the quarterback. And they're not going to run at DJ Reader and Watson. Just like I wouldn't expect that they're going to run at DJ Reader and Broderick Martin because of his size and his long arms Broderick Martin has. So is he another project? Yes. Here's what I envision for the guy. You get him down to 420, 415. You have him drop 30, 40 pounds. You get lighter on your feet. He's going to have better balance, but his balance is great. I swear his legs are 2 feet around, like in diameter. His legs are huge. Big anchor. Love the opportunity here. And this is not a traditional pick. It would be someone that would have a hard time making a roster that is already loaded. And I think the Lions prefer to have speed, but you always need a nose tackle in this 4-3 scheme. So interesting. Good find by Eric. Riley, what are your thoughts on this massive human?
Yeah, you wonder about what type of longevity he might have, but the most mind-blowing thing for me is you're talking about a guy, as you said, he's to never miss a game in 4 seasons. That's extremely rare. And usually guys that are that size, it's like a tall person in basketball. Like, are they playing because they're tall, or are they playing because they love competing and they love the grind of football? To never miss a game in 4 seasons tells you this dude's got a motor, obviously, and he's motivated, competitive, loves the competition. So how long will his NFL career be? Hard to say, but if you could get him and plug him in and get a couple good years out of him, that alone might be worth it. But that's an impressive thing, man. I mean, you got to tip the hat to him, to somebody that's comfortable in their body, that's putting forth their best foot every day. It seems like just incredible that he's never missed a game in 4 seasons. So that's exactly the type of player that the Lions need, is players that are on the field.
Absolutely. Hey, do us a favor real quick. If you guys haven't liked the stream yet, please help us out with the algorithm. And if you haven't subscribed, we'd love to have you guys along for the ride. It's going to be a fun ride this year. It really is, just like it was last year, and it is every year. But we do a lot of really unique things on this channel. But more importantly, it's all about the truth, the transparency, the honesty of what we report and what we do. It's no gimmicks, right? There's no sleight of hand here. I want to give out a bunch more mini helmets that I still have left. And this year, it's against all odds, not only for the cancer warriors, right? So I try to assimilate what we do and what the Lions are doing against all odds, man. I've battling cancer, and I know that many out there are battling each and every day. And it may not be cancer. It could be something else. So it's against all odds. You need to pick yourself up off the floor every day and take a few steps. The Lions did the same thing last year. They picked themselves up off the floor every game after they lost players, and they continue to battle forward. So I respectfully would ask you to do the same thing. If you're battling against something, do it. You have it within you. Just take one extra step every day. You'll get there. Eric, man, that's great work. I really appreciate these lesser known football players that we can highlight. And I think he has a real opportunity to be something special. And it's guys like this that, yeah, if you can just manage his weight, and I think that's going to be his hardest problem, especially when you have more money. But if you were in the right training program, and if he really loves football the way that it appears that he does, and the way that his teammates and his coaches says that he does, maybe he'll put forth the effort to keep it under, a certain poundage limit, whatever that is, whatever the NFL geniuses come up with. I think at 464 pounds, you're going to have a little bit of a problem in the NFL going up against some of the elite guards and tackles. And for that reason, I think he definitely needs to get down 415, 425. If he's playing this well, drop 30, drop 40, he's going to play a hell of a lot better. Over 400 pounds is just insane. It's insane. All right, I think we skipped one. So we did Desmond. We did Chicago. It's after 9. Let's get into some Lions stuff. We'll bounce back if we need to.
All right.
Let's do a quick update here. Well, this is NFL news. Quick update here on Josh Reynolds. What happened there, and then we'll get into Lions news.
Sure. So according to Adam Schefter, former Detroit Lions wide receiver Josh Reynolds has united with former coaches Tanner Engstrand and Aaron Glenn after signing a 1-year contract worth up to $5 million with incentives. Reynolds is entering his 11th season in the NFL and will bring valuable experience to the Jets wide receiver room. He was drafted in the 4th round, 117th overall of the 2017 NFL draft by the Los Angeles Rams. So it's my belief that Tanner Engstrand is probably going to be bringing a similar type offense to the Jets that the Lions ran. And I would think that's what Glenn would be comfortable with. So bringing in someone like Josh Reynolds, it's a no-brainer. Now, Josh, he's bounced all over the place. He was drafted by the Rams. Then he went to the Titans for a few games. Then he came to the Lions for 3 years. Then he left us to go to the Denver Broncos on a 2-year contract, and then played a couple of games and went to the Jaguars after being shot at a club. So he's been through some tumultuous stuff, and it would be really cool to see him go back and get some redemption and be able to put together a nice season. But he has been around a few teams now. Some teams he works out and some teams he doesn't. So there's been two teams he's worked out with in the Lions and the Rams, and 3 teams with the Tennessee Titans, the Jaguars, and the Broncos that it just didn't quite work out for him. So hopefully this is the right system for him and he can latch on with the Jets.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that he honestly never came back. I mean, I really like Reynolds and what he provided the Detroit Lions when he was here. He was exactly what Jared Goff needed, which was a familiar face, and now Jared Goff has multiple familiar faces. So I think that he was a very useful bridge for Jared Goff in the very beginning of the transition for the Detroit Lions, but it just didn't make sense to have him come back last year, asking for the type of money that he was asking for. And maybe, just maybe, the Lions were starting to see some, maybe some changes with him that maybe they didn't like. I don't know. I'm not gonna say that there was anything going on because I don't know. But with what transpired in Denver, it makes you wonder what the hell was going on with him. But Josh, he still has the ability to be successful. He's been in the league for quite a bit. But speaking of offenses, now Morton is eager. This is from Tim Twentyman. So we're going to highlight Tim today. This came out last night, or yesterday morning, excuse me. DetroitLions.com. Tim Twentyman says that John Morton is eager to maximize explosive plays with the Lions offense. So according to this article, the Lions offensive coordinator, John Morton, has 3 philosophies when it comes to offensive football. 1, protect the ball by making good decisions. 2, generate explosive plays. 3, be good on third down. I want to add a philosophy that I assume that they're going to utilize. You have to be great on fourth down. There's no more third down for the Lions in the NFL. There's just not. There hasn't been. Third down is just a normal down. It's fourth down, which is now our third down. So I would say you have to be great on fourth down. You don't want to get to fourth down, but if you have to, you have to. And we think that Dan Campbell has proven third down is just another down. We're going for it, in most cases above the 50-yard line. Now, Morton did inherit a Detroit Lions offense that's been extremely good in all phases, and extremely good with those 3 points that he points out. Detroit's 15 giveaways last season were the 6th fewest in the NFL last year. So for all the hate on Jared Goff, let me say that again. The Detroit Lions' 15 giveaways were the 6th fewest in the NFL last year. Now, let that be a brain boggler because Jared Goff threw 5 interceptions, twice last year? Once against the Texans, and then, or he threw 4 against the Commanders, right?
Yeah.
So 9 in 2 games. Now, I would say that maybe half of those were his fault, and the other half was Ben Johnson's fault for calling stupid plays at the wrong time. It is what it is. It's still only 15 giveaways, which was 12 interceptions and I believe 3 fumbles. Now, the Lions had the most 10-plus yard plays and the 3rd most 50-yard plays generated by the offense of 24. Again, for the haters out there, I want to make sure you can hear me in the very, very, very back. Jared Goff can throw the deep ball. And yes, he can hit J-Mo in stride. He may not run a blazing 4.2, 4.40 or 4.3 or 4.4 or even a 4.5. But the broken giraffe seems to utilize his legs when he needs to. But more importantly, that dude will stay in the pocket and take a licking, and then he keeps on ticking and getting that ball out. They had the 4th best third down percentage at 47.6%. But it's the second principle, the explosive plays, that John Morton eagerly talked about when he sat down with reporters for the first time at the NFL Combine last month, where he said, quote, I think you have to have explosive plays. You have to be able to do that. I think that there's a certain amount of explosive plays you need in a game. And explosive, I always think 7 or 8 plays explosively per game is really good. I'm curious how many the Lions had on average per game. I've never looked that up. But Morton said that the offensive staff would sit down in the weeks after the Combine and under Dan Campbell's guidance. That's an important statement because what have I been saying all week, Eric, that, or even the last 2 weeks, this offense is whose?
It's Dan Campbell's.
It's Dan Campbell's. So even Morton is saying under Dan's guidance, they're going to sit down. They're going to create a scale for how they log explosive plays internally. And Morton said that he usually views a pass play of 16 to 17 yards or more and a run play of 10 to 12 yards or more as explosive. Now, I didn't look this up before we started doing this, but I think the explosives in the NFL right now is over 10 yards pass play. Either of you remember?
I do not.
I'm going to look it up here really quick.
Yeah,
too.
I'm working on it.
Maybe somebody in the chat can help us out too. So,
okay. So, okay, here it is. It's a run of 10 or more and a pass play of 20 or more. So Morton wants to back it up 15, 20% on the pass plays. I mean, that would just generate more numbers internally. But for the NFL, it's obviously 20 or more, which honestly, Jared Goff and this Detroit Lions offense has been one of the best at explosive plays. So I don't know if you want to really back it up a few yards. I mean, I guess whatever you do internally is what you do internally, but from the NFL scope and what every other team is doing, that's how they measure it. But again, you have your own internal ways of calculating things as to how good your offense is operating. Now, the exciting part for Morton, obviously, clearly, it's the weapons that he's going to have that's already built inside this offense to accomplish any goal that they're going to place on the 25 season. The Detroit Lions led in 24 with the most touchdowns of 20-plus yards, followed by Philadelphia Eagles had 18. The Lions had 18 touchdowns of 20-plus yards or more. Philadelphia had 17. Cincinnati had 15. From a run game perspective, Jahmyr Gibbs had 41 runs of 10-plus yards. It was the most among NFL running backs. 16.4% of his runs gained 10-plus yards. That's insanity. Matter of fact, I just got to do it. Oh, no, wrong one.
They give it to Jameer. Big hole. There he goes down to the 20-yard line. Angling to the 15. Gone, baby. 5. End zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. 25 yards.
Well, guess what? That was an explosive play. So, look, he topped the league. David Montgomery also added 17 of 10-plus yards. Now, imagine for just a moment that if this wasn't a 50-50 backfield, it's pretty much what it's been. I think it needs to be 70-30 this year. Gibbs needs to have 70% of the plays. Last year, it was like they would trot out Montgomery for the first possession, Gibbs for the second possession, and they'd get the whole possession. Maybe when it got inside the red zone, they started to switch a few things up. You'd see Montgomery maybe come back in for short yardage, goal line work. But then you notice that Gibbs on the short line, short yardage, goal line work was even better because you get him on the outside, no one's touching him to the corner of the end zone. And we've seen it a few times. Matter of fact, Eric and I were sitting right there at the Seattle game, I believe, when Jahmyr Gibbs was running up the center, spun, and then came out and did the Barry Sanders move to the corner of the end zone.
Yep.
That was the Seattle game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was. So anyway, I think that you've got to give Gibbs more touches. You have to. The guy's way too dynamic of a football player. But it's the run game that Detroit has obviously built on both toughness and big play potential, which puts a ton of pressure on opposing defenses. Morton said that will continue to be the focus when he and the run game coordinator and offensive line coach Hank Fraley sit down and build the run game plan for 2025. Morton also said that he has been a passing game coordinator in the college and NFL ranks with New Orleans and Denver and served as the offensive coordinator for the Jets in 2017. It was obviously a failed experiment, but he had a shitty offense, like nobody. He's got a terrific mind for offensive football, and particularly getting the most out of the passing game is what he was able to do in New York with a terrible roster. Quote, he's super passionate, and he works his tail off. This is what Sean Payton had to say about John Morton. He's great with film study and ideas. He's one of those guys that will bring you red zone, third down, and a lot of information, end quote. Now, Dan Campbell also said that Morton was instrumental in putting the original version of the offense together in Detroit in 2022. Doesn't that make a whole lot of sense? So he was one of the original artists, if you will, on this amazing label, the Detroit Lions, and built multi-platinum hits since 2021. But he was part of what this original version of this offense was supposed to look like after Anthony Lynn was gone. Dan Campbell was obviously a big part of that as well, still is. I think it's more enlightening now than it was before at the hire. The reason why they're bringing him back is because he helped build it from the beginning. And now it's evolved. And it's so much better than where it started. And you have all these pieces that you didn't have before. It's almost like a kid in a candy store. Like I remember going to the candy store down in Boone, North Carolina, by my mom's house. And it's just called the General Store. And you walk in, man, it's just those big whiskey barrels, big 55-gallon like whiskey barrels, all wood, like Jack Daniels type barrels, just loaded to the top with all sorts of candy. And there's like hundreds of them in there, in bins and stuff hanging. I mean, just thousands of different types of candy from all over the world. That's what it's got to be like for John Morton walking into this offense right now. As like a 9-year-old kid, you walk into this store and it's like, holy cow, I'm going to lose all my teeth today. So anyway, quote, he was a pivotal piece helping us put this together. This offense version for Jared Goff with Goff, Campbell said. That was big. But then also we were so many things that during the game plan and weeks of game plan, the ideas that he had in the past game, going into weeks, getting ready for opponents was big for us. A lot of things we used, man. Look, I'm excited. Now, I'm excited to see where this evolves. Obviously, Detroit is one of the top teams in the NFL with explosive passing threats in the league last season, in the fourth year. Now for Jameson Williams, I think that he has to capitalize on JMO. He has to be able to utilize JMO in a very dynamic version of himself and what he's already been. It needs to be better. JMO had 5 touchdowns of 50-plus yards last season that tied for the NFL lead. He had 17.3 yards per reception. and was second best last season. Williams had 17 receptions of 20-plus yards last season, and his average alone already fits, obviously, into Morton's parameters of this new explosive play metric of 16 to 17 yards. So you still have Amon-Ra St. Brown, you still have Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery. What more can you ask for in coming into an offense that has so many toys? So, Riley, let me ask you first. What do you think about Morton and the opportunity that's presented? And then right after that, go to you, Eric.
Yeah, my thoughts are almost looking back at it. It's like, man, this was so obviously the guy that they're going to target. This is so obviously the guy that they're going to hire. It's like if, I don't know, it's like if Eric went and did some other podcast for 7 months and then came back and said, okay, all right, we're doing the morning show, and you just go. I've done that before. I've left a company I was working at, tried something for a little while, wasn't working. I'm like, all right, nope, I'm coming back. And as soon as I got there, I was like twofold, because I knew how everything worked. I knew how the company worked. I knew where to go to get what I needed. So it's different. It's you would only bring in a totally different offensive, guy and scheme if the offense was like 21st or worse in the league, right? But it was the first best yardage per game offense. You want to just find somebody that can just keep that going. They adjust it a little bit to their liking or whatever the case is. And I guess that's one thing. Maybe we'll see a little bit less of the trickery, but I still expect every bit as creative and aggressive as an offense. But John Morton, because I didn't know who he was at first when the hire was first made, and I loved Ben Johnson, so it was going to be hard for me to be so optimistic. But the more I learn about John Morton, it makes sense. It's a perfect hire, it seems.
Eric?
So I just want to say thank you. We got to 75 likes this morning, so we're going to get those ads turned off for you guys. And
Ads should have been off.
oh, okay.
Yeah, they should be.
All right. Trace sent me a message. So
Okay. Yeah, they're off.
Okay. And so you said, what more could John Morton ask for? Right.
Yeah.
Well, he could ask for a big bodied wide receiver.
Yep.
In the first or second round. And I think Jaden Higgins, for me, fits that role. Out of Iowa State, kids 4'4", 6'4.25", grabs all those 50-50 balls, my kind of kid. Somebody like that would be the perfect toy. That's the one more thing that could put this offense over the top for John Morton. And you reminded me of a story from when I was a kid. So I was a kid back in the late 70s. And my dad would send me to People's Market. It was about 6 blocks away, with a note and $2. And the note said, please sell Eric 2 packs of Vantage 100s and he can spend the change on penny candies. So I'd have about 20 cents left, and it'd take me an hour looking at all the hundreds of penny candies to pick out which 20 I wanted to try that day. And it used to be like my daily thing was to walk down to People's Market and get 20 penny candies and get my dad a pack of smokes, So God, times have changed now. It's nothing like that anymore. And but I do think that John Morton is going to love this offense, but I don't think he's going to fundamentally come in and change anything to be his way. He's going to take what Dan Campbell gave him and run with it. Why change it if it's not broken?
Exactly. And honestly, to your point, and I got a funny story to add after this. Goff had the second most completions last year of 20-plus yards, 61, and a passer rating of 103 on passes that traveled more than 21 yards in the air. So again, for all the Goff haters out there that say, oh, he had all these 20-yard receptions because it was all yak. No, they traveled in the air. That's the difference. It wouldn't be an explosive, if it was caught at the goal line and ran for 21 yards. I mean, you would still consider it explosive, but it really wouldn't be a pass play over 20 at that point. It's a pass play of 1, and then it's a run of 19 or 20. So there's some big discrepancies in what again, this certain faction of fan base that I feel hates Jared Goff and wants a defensive end. Like that, I think that they're tied at the hip together. And speaking of being tied at the hip, who was it? Full Slate Farms? Who was it? Spartan? Just had a funny as hell statement here that I have to read because it was hilarious. It was also factual, right? So let me find it. Great Lakes State guy, Michigan, says, the only thing I don't get is Goff was a great scrambler in a tough college division. He gets to the NFL and runs like his ankles are tied together, as mobile as a traffic cone. God. Oh, it's hilarious. But that's why I labeled Jared Goff the broken giraffe. And it's because whenever I saw him running around, now I'm crying. Whenever I saw him running around, he looked like a baby giraffe that just got born. They get up, they try to walk, and they're clunky and they're falling all over the place. Then Eric took it a step further, called him the baby giraffe. So that's just what he looks like when he runs around because he's so tall and lanky. It's not being disrespectful, but I don't like to see Jared run. I don't want him to run. I mean, it's great that he does do it at times, and he'll get a first down when he absolutely has to, but the goal is to not make your quarterback run. Even for these dual threat quarterbacks, they don't want to have to run. They want to pass the ball. They want to hand the ball off. They don't want to go out and get hit. So continue to keep Jared Goff upright, I think, is the most important thing. And I'm surprised that Morton didn't put that as one of his main philosophies. In it, protecting the ball by making good decisions, I understand. But I think that it should have been more in line with protect your quarterback at all costs. Like that would be one of my main philosophies as an offensive coordinator. That is the most important thing. Protect your quarterback. And maybe it's just one of those things that is just the unknown commodity in the NFL that that's just a given, right? You want to protect your quarterback. So my funny story, you mentioned the note thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy that back in the day, in the late 80s, the 90s, hell, even into the early 2000s, you could probably get away with a note. Hey, go to the store and get me a fifth of this or a 6-pack of that or some cigarettes.
Yeah.
Getting cigarettes was a little bit easier. Alcohol is a little bit different, a little bit harder. But there was always, everyone always has this store or two or whatever, wherever they live that maybe doesn't, abide by all the rules. All they care about is making a buck. So me being stupid, right, at, 15, 16 years old, brought a note up to the store. Hey, my grandma needs some cigarettes. And here's this note. And they sold them to me. And that was my first experience with smoking a cigarette back in the day, which I don't smoke now. But dumbest decision I ever made, right? But it's just funny how you could get away with stuff like that back then. And now you walk into the store and they scan your ID for anything, which I don't like. I think that, I don't like people knowing where I'm at. And every time you scan an ID, that puts you in places, right? And I think it's done by purpose where the government's tracking you. They want to know where everybody is at all times. So if you're a smoker or a drinker, you're on the radar, right? You're there. Big Brother's all over you. So I don't like that. But yeah, nowadays you can't get away with that stuff. Back then, freaking note, you could go get whatever you want.
So are you saying you forged the note, if I'm understanding this right?
I'm not going to, I'm going to respectfully decline any knowing of any forgery.
Plead the fifth.
Yeah.
There will be, all Will knows is he had a note.
I had a note.
And that's it, right?
It was just a note. Yeah.
And followed its instructions to a T.
Have to plead the fifth.
Yep. I'm not going to self-incriminate myself. But yeah, it's just funny. Back in the day, things were so much different than they are today. But you know what? That's again, that's the transparency, right? I just told you something that nobody would ever know. Anyway, let's move on from this one. I think that we're going to have a very good offense again this year. I am not worried one bit about Ben Johnson leaving. I think the explosives are going to be there. I to your point, Eric, you said, or was it you that said that maybe we'll have less trickery? Or was that you, Riley?
That was Riley.
It was Riley.
Yeah.
I think that we'll still have trick plays, but I do agree that, we're not going to have 5 offensive linemen trying to catch a pass in a game. That we're not going to try to pass the ball on 3rd and 1 at the 17. Like, I think that's idiocy. I think that we're going to run the football. And especially at the times when it makes sense to run the football. I expect Jameer to have an exceptional season. I really do. All right, moving down the list here. Eric, you've got some contract details about the 6 Detroit Lions free agents and maybe going a little bit deeper here. Tell us all about it.
Yeah. So Brad Holmes is a genius. And it seems that he was even more of a genius than we all knew. So Jeremy Reisman found out the details of 6 of the Lions' new contracts for the 2025 season. And to say Brad got some deals is an understatement. Let's dive in and take a look at some of what Brad cooked up, because he was cooking. So first off, we're going to start with running back Craig Reynolds. Craig Reynolds entered free agency as a restricted free agent, meaning the Lions could have offered him a tender, but that would have cost the Lions $3.3 million at a minimum. Instead, the Lions re-signing him for essentially 1/3 of that. There is essentially no guaranteed money in Reynolds' deal, although he'll pocket $75,000 as long as he appears during the Lions offseason program. But with Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, and Sione Vaki all locks to make the roster, Reynolds' spot on the roster is far from guaranteed, despite the fact that he's been the team's number 3 running back for the past few years. Now, his base salary is $1.17 million. His roster bonus is $75,000. His workout bonus is $75,000, and his cap hit for this year is $1.18 million. So,
wow,
1 year, $1.17 million. That's less than half if they would have tendered him. Most GMs would have just tendered the guy. He's been with the team forever. They need a 3rd or 4th running back, somebody to at least be a camp body, if nothing else. And he plays a major role on special teams. You're getting back that big of a contributor for $1.17 million. Let Brad cook.
So real quick, this is by Jeremy Reisman put this out?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure I get it open.
Yeah.
So you said it was a base salary of 1.17, a roster bonus of $75K, which, I mean, that's a low roster bonus that maybe they're expecting that he makes the roster. I don't know. Workout bonus of $75K, and then it was a cap hit of 1.18.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, it's taking the base salary, adding the roster bonuses together. So it's like 1.18 in some change. I just pulled open their contracts here.
Yep.
And oh my God. He's making less than Sione Vaki.
Wow.
He's making less than Sione. So the overall value of Sione Vaki's contract is 4.7, we'll call it. Actually, he's making just about the same as Sione Vaki. So Sione's 1.16. Craig is 1.32. But at the end of the day, I think that Sione has a few more things involved in his contract that will probably escalate. But anyway, it's good to see the comparables there, that the rookies that we brought in last year are making similar to what our re-signs are making this year. So anyway, keep going.
Yep. And next up, we have offensive tackle Dan Skipper. He's on a 1-year, $1.42 million deal with a base salary of $1.25 million, a signing bonus familiar of $75,000, a roster bonus of only $67,500, a workout bonus of $25,000, and a cap hit of 1.2. Skipper's contract is a slight bump in pay from last year's 1.15, although part of that is simply mandated by the vet minimum salary of 1.2. He's receiving for being in the NFL at least 7 seasons. Still, he also gets a modest signing bonus, and when combined with his workout bonus, he'll end up bringing in $100,000. However, this does not exactly look like guaranteed offensive tackle 3 money. If you wanted to jump to conclusion here, it could be a sign that Giovanni Manu took some strides in his rookie season behind the scenes and could be ready to take on the primary backup role. I need to see a little more on the practice field before I make that assumption. The Lions are able to keep Skipper's cap number low due to the NFL's veteran salary benefit, which notes that if you sign a player to a minimum salary with at least 167,500 available in incentives, the Lions match that number exactly. The salary of that deal will only hit the cap based on the minimum salary of the second year player, 1.03 million.
Isn't it crazy how many different things that's why I said these contracts are so messed up. Like it is almost impossible to really understand what the hell's going on inside these contracts because there's so many little nuances. Like this, I didn't even know. So because you match a certain amount of incentives, it now bumps that player's salary to the second year player vet minimum. And now I'm looking at Giovanni Manu, who's making 1.186 this year. Dan Skipper, according to Spotrac, is 1.422. But yeah, it doesn't have cap hit or anything on here. I might have to sign in. But I guess the point that I'm trying to make here is he's making, fairly close money to what our draft pick of last year is making. Again, Brad's cooking at a different level. Like he's on Michelin star number 3 right now.
Yep.
Who's
and
next?
only a million of that is going to count against the cap.
Right.
Yeah.
That's if he makes the roster. Remember, these contracts don't really kick in until cut day. If I understand correctly, I think it doesn't really kick in until they're actually, that's a whole nother thing, right? These guys don't really get paid, I think, until the season starts. It's not like they're paid year round. Like they get, 18 or 17 game checks. And that is, from what I understand, that's your base salary is your game check. Everything else comes as a way of, bonuses and incentives and your signing bonus you might get before the season or a portion thereof. But the rest of it will come before the new league year starts when you start to get all your bonus money. Interesting.
Skipper had a few things that Craig Reynolds didn't. So he has a signing bonus of 75,000. So he would have got that at signing. And then he also has a workout bonus in there. So he will get $25,000 for going to all the mandatory workouts.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay. And now next up is Edge Al-Qadim Muhammad. He got a 1-year, $1.42 million contract. So his base salary is $1.255 million with $750,000 guaranteed. So he's got a little bit of guaranteed money in there. The first two guys, no guaranteed money. His signing bonus was $167,500. His roster bonus is 6.75 or 67.5. And then his cap number is 1.2 million. While Muhammad had the same minimum salary as Skipper, he also has 917,500 in guarantees, suggesting his roster spot may be a little more on solid ground than that of Skipper's deal. Like with Skipper, the Lions are using the veteran salary benefit with Muhammad. It's a small enough contract that Detroit could move on from Muhammad if he doesn't play well enough to make the roster, but the bump in guarantees suggests the Lions like him. What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Riley.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. I know our guy, Tim Brandon, that we had on for an interview maybe 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, really smart guy, loves Lion football, great coach. I know that Muhammad is one of his top guys, and he was elated when we re-signed him. And I think the contract makes sense. In fact, just like you were saying, Will, is you're looking at all of these, they're all puzzle pieces that fit very well, very complementary. So as you start getting granular and looking at it, you can start to kind of get an idea for the thought process behind it and why they're doing, why they're making the moves that they're making. But I'm excited to have Muhammad back for sure.
I'm just going to echo the same thing here. I mean, I think that Al-Qadim Muhammad was an absolute steal, bringing him in at this extremely low contract. And I'm not going to say that, that they don't respect the dude because it's such a low contract. I think that we just got lucky in this. He wanted to play for Detroit. Obviously, he, when he came in last season late, had some success, got a lot of playing time, sees the vision, fits well on this team, has experience. And I think that he can see the success if he's able to get on the field with Aiden. And if Aiden's able to get on the field and be what he was last year, he can see the success that he's going to have. Which, let me just say that real quick. I'll ask you, Eric, and then Riley, give me your answer. Would you rather see all of the defensive ends that are rotational players, the starters on the right side or left side? I don't care what side. They play both sides. But let's just say right side. Davenport, Pascal, El-Kadim Muhammad. Wouldn't you rather see the rotational guys opposite of Aiden end up with more sacks than Aiden?
I don't care who gets them.
or even generate more pressures combined.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's, for me, the reason why I say that is that means that you have this hive workload. You're spreading the workload across, the entire team versus depending on one player. Why is that important? Well, for me, when a player goes down, you now know that you have multiple assets that can still produce combined effort. And that's what Brad is doing. He's building us a beehive of worker bees that can all produce. They all have a job to do. And if one guy goes down, it's not freak out mode. It's your job is now here. You have to go produce. And that's okay. It's next man up. If you have guys that can all produce together, I'd rather have that than one guy that's just doing the work or getting all the accolades, because if that dude is down, it doesn't work, right? It doesn't. And I understand the other side of this where, everyone say we need a guy opposite of Aiden. No, we need 5 or 6 guys on this squad that can produce. How do you do that? It's not easy. No other team is doing it. I think what the Lions are doing is far and away better than what any other team has done. Now, there's a couple of teams that got really good this offseason, but they still have to produce together, right? They still have to fit in the scheme together and be able to play together. Just because they're paper tigers from last season on a roster sheet this year doesn't mean squat until they get into a game situation and they produce. So, Riley, what is your thought? And then, Eric, go ahead and finish out with Pat O'Connor and whoever else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very interesting thought process on it. The one thing is, given that he had his year last year cut short due to injury and not being to, it's kind of, I thought about this a lot with Aiden Hutchinson's perspective. How would it feel to sit back, to not be taking the field and your team still wins 15 games? You almost might kind of have that feeling like, damn, do they really need me? Now, of course we do, but there's that human element, that human nature, right? He wanted to, if he was continuing to play at the pace he was at last year and the Lions went 15-2, he's like, yeah, I'm the best at my position in the NFL. And he may feel that way anyway. You want to believe that Aiden Hutchinson would have the mindset of whatever it takes to win. Just like Eric, you said, I don't care where they come from. You wonder if a player might just have that, there's that personal ego involved of, might be cool for a couple of games, but if everyone else starts getting the credit, would that start to eat at him a little bit? And then would you be able to channel that and keep the team, perspective? I'm not saying one way or the other. I think Aiden Hutchinson has shown he's professional in every sense, but I could see that being a thing where, he's seen what Myles Garrett just got paid. He's seen what all these other guys are getting paid. Aiden Hutchinson's going to want to come back, and he's going to want to be the guy as a fan of the team, and looking at it analytically. I'm like you, Eric. I don't care where they come from. Just get the job done, right? Whatever it takes to lead to some wins.
Yep. Me personally, I don't care if Hutch makes what he's making now or $100 million. I don't care. I just care about wins and losses. So the next up is defensive lineman Pat O'Connor. He was signed to a $1.42 million deal with $200,000 in guarantees. and a signing bonus of 100,000, a roster bonus of 67,500. You can remember that number, 67,500, with a cap number of $1.13 million. Well, man, look at there. That's another veteran salary benefit deal with 300,000 in total guarantees. Well, Connor may be considered a favorite to make the roster at this point, but he's not quite as safe as Muhammad appears to be, with just a little less money. The Lions like O'Connor, and he's got a nice little guarantee here, but it's not enough to call his roster spot a lock just yet. What do you guys think about Pat O'Connor and his deal being another veteran salary benefit?
Go ahead, Riley. You can finish this segment out with Eric. I'm going to work on something here in the background.
Yeah. It's like you said, it's another one of those $1.42 million deals. I thought O'Connor was valuable for sure in his position. I just don't know if, where he falls in line if everybody's back healthy. Agree that he doesn't seem like he's as sure of a roster spot, or doesn't seem to have as sure of a roster spot as I would say Muhammad does.
All right. And last up, we have cornerback Avante Maddox that we got from the Philadelphia Eagles. He has a 1-year, $1.42 million deal. His base salary is $1.255 with $1,030,000 guaranteed. His signing bonus is $167,500, and his cap hit is $1.2 million. And once again, here is another veteran salary benefit deal for the Lions here. But there's one major difference here. Essentially, Maddox's entire contract is guaranteed. This is a sign the Lions value the veteran's experience Maddox brings to relatively a young cornerback room. Now, his entire salary is basically guaranteed, but he only counts 1.2 million, not 1.4 million against the cap. So the Lions get about a $200,000 savings there, and that's pretty cool. So what do you think about that deal that Brad Holmes is cooking up there, Riley?
Well, I wonder if Avante went into the office and rolled up his sleeve and showed him his Lions tattoo. I'm sure you guys saw that, right? Like, guys, look, does this mean anything to you guys when we're putting this together? But I think we've seen over the last few seasons, in particular, how important depth. I mean, that's not earth-shattering news. Depth is important, but I think for the Lions, especially the defensive backfield, you've got to have capable bodies. You got to have as many as you can. And Avante Maddox, with that being the case, with his contract almost entirely being guaranteed, he's going to make the team. And I'm excited to see, man. It's another one of those guys that wants to be in Detroit. They're not just chasing money. You always talk about you can't just buy a team. This is a guy that wants to be in Detroit, and I think he'll have some leadership. And then if called upon, he'll be able to go out on the field and hold his own, more than hold his own.
Yeah, Maddox grew up in Detroit, went to high school in Detroit. I think he even went to college here in Michigan. And listen, this kid's girlfriend told him last season that he was going to be a Detroit Lion. He's like, "How do you know that?" She's like, "I just know." And voila, he's a Detroit Lion. And it's very surprising. A kid coming off a Super Bowl win with the Philadelphia Eagles isn't demanding a whole lot of money. So I know he was a backup in Philly, but he did get in and he did play. So
Yeah, I think he had like 20 snaps last year.
Yeah.
And maybe 7 or 10 or something in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. So he did play. It's not like he's just, a backup of a backup of a backup. He did get to play. So I'm looking forward to having him with the Detroit Lions. And up last, we have Khalil Dorsey. Now, this is the only 2-year deal that was signed by any of these 6. Okay. And this is our last player. He signed a 2-year, $3.3 million deal. And in the first year, he has a base salary of $1.1 million with a prorated signing bonus of $150,000, a game roster bonus of $230,000, and only $189,000 of that hits the cap, a workout bonus of $45,000, and a total cap hit of $1.4 million. In 2026, those numbers go up and down a little bit. So the base salary is $1.3 million. a prorated signing bonus of $150,000, a game roster bonus of $230,000, a workout bonus of $45,000, and a cap hit of 1.7. So the Detroit Lions re-signed about 30 players between futures deals, ERFA tenders, and free agency signings. Of those 30 players, only 2 received a multiple year deal in Derek Barnes and Khalil Dorsey. That alone says plenty on what they think of Khalil Dorsey. He may be coming off a broken tibia and fibula, just like Hutch, but the Lions think highly of Dorsey as a special teams ace and even someone who can step in on defense if needed. Expect Dorsey to be around for the next couple of years, and it wouldn't be shocking to see him get another contract at the end of 2026 when he'll be just 28 years old. What do you think of Khalil Dorsey?
Yeah, the players that the Lions are signing, it makes perfect sense. If you just look at the big picture, you say, hey, you're coming off 15 wins. You've already paid your quarterback, your receiver, one of your linemen. You've given out these deals. So who do you go sign? You go sign players that are willing to take less, that are willing to prove themselves. And you can just imagine when Brad Holmes sells an agent on a player's role here. We've seen it with Mosley. We've seen it with Levi. We've seen it now with Dorsey. There's players that he sells them on. This is the role that you're going to have on the team. And when those guys come down with injury, which is a risk, as we know, that's on every single snap of a football, it's interesting and kind of nice to see that Brad Holmes doesn't just dump them. Now, it has to be very careful how you do that, right? It's business. But it's nice to see, like, you break a tibia and a fibula, and it's not just, hey, man, didn't work out here, best of luck, we no longer need you or care about you. They still see the value that he brings to the team. And as a person, you got to imagine Khalil Dorsey feels like, okay, like, you're betting on me, you believe in me. It's just, it makes sense for this contract and this number to bring somebody back that's already been here that already has value. And then, like Jeremy Reisman pointed out in there, he's a special team ace, but he can also play snaps on defense too as needed. So that's a great signing.
Was that in on that segment?
Yep. That is the end.
All right.
Brad Holmes cooking.
Brad Holmes cooking. You know what else is cooking? So on the back, I'm building a ticket that you guys can join the Rockhound Detroit Lions training camp kickoff barbecue, which will be held probably the day before. The goal is to do this like the Saturday. Like if they do fan attendance on a Sunday, let's say that Sunday is the first day that you can attend training camp, I want to do it on the Saturday before. Either way, it'll be done on a Saturday or a Sunday. So we're going to select a place somewhere near Allen Park so that, we can kind of get halfway, maybe a little more than halfway, but Detroit, Lansing, Grand Rapids, people can all join. So it'll be a fully catered event. Obviously, the podcast will be going that day. We'll have a tent with the podcast going. If you want to join the podcast, talk about your lines, you can absolutely do that. We'll be running it all day. We'll have cameras up so people can view, kind of what's going on. I've got to find an event space. It'll more than likely be outdoors. So hopefully we have good weather. But the plan is to get fans together to do a little event. We're going to do some silent auction stuff. I'll be hopefully working with Pro Sports Zone on some memorabilia, things that you guys can do silent auctions on, help build some revenue for Rockhound Cancer Foundation. But the goal is to just get fans together, just talking about your team, wear your Lions gear, right? Show up, have some fun. As far as spirits and that, it depends on the event space. I will try to find a space that you'll be able to do whatever you want, obviously at your own risk. And so purchasing a ticket, obviously there'll be disclaimers in there because I'm not getting sued for people's stupidity. Anyway, it's going to be fun. It's going to be our first annual, and it will be an annual. It is something that I plan on doing every year. We'll have golf events and stuff like that are also going to be loaded up here pretty soon. But this one is going to be fun. So it'll be right before training camp, fully catered barbecue. Everything. 3 or 4 different styles of meats, coleslaws, mac and cheese. I'll make my special baked beans, and I'm not going to try to cook too much because it's just too much to pull this off and do that. But various desserts. I'll have some gluten-free items, obviously. But if you need gluten-free, you've got to let me know because it'll be limited. But it'll be all sorts of good food, good people, good cause. and great times. So join it. It'll be up today. You can buy a ticket. I will close ticket sales probably 2-3 weeks before the date. And the date is to be determined. Right now, I'm thinking it's July 19. But depending on when they release the schedule for training camp, it could change a little bit. So right now, I'm expecting July 19. But if it changes, it changes. So we'll have some fun with that. Last up here, Jared Goff, Riley. What's going on with Jared Goff?
Let me see here. I'm going to scroll down. I know I had one on Alex, or let's see here.
Alex. Alex Anzalone. Yes. We want to get to that one.
Okay.
That was one of the first ones.
Yeah. You're the head coach. Which one do you want?
No, Alex one. That's the one that's more important.
Yeah. Okay. So this is pretty cool. This was a tweet that gentleman Al Carson put out the other day. Now, what he did is he compiled a list of the top linebacker leaders in percentage of man coverage snaps played. Now, we know that the Lions play a ton of man coverage defensively. Qualifying players on this list had to have played a minimum of 150 snaps. So at the top of that list was veteran linebacker Alex Anzalone. Anzalone quote tweeted Mr. Carson's tweet and said simply, "No other linebacker is asked to do what I do," end quote. That's from Alex. So Anzalone was joined by teammates Malcolm Rodriguez and Jack Campbell, who both also finished in the top 4 of percentage of man coverage snaps played. According to Pro Football Reference, the 2024 linebacker leaders in percentage of man coverage snaps played: Alex Anzalone at number 1 with 48.5%. New England's Christian Ellis was 47.4%. And then Malcolm Rodriguez at 3rd at 41.2%. Jack Campbell was 4 at 39.1%. So 3 of the top 4 are all Detroit Lions. So Anzalone was only allowed opposing quarterbacks to throw for 5.4 yards per target when they threw his direction, which is phenomenal. Now, I admit wholeheartedly that when Anzalone was signed in Detroit in 2021, I didn't know he was as good as he is. I for sure thought he was just one of those, hey, they're bringing in a veteran guy that worked with Aaron Glenn and Dan Campbell with the Saints. I didn't know he was going to be such an important part of the team of this iteration of the Detroit Lions. Every Lions fan knows how important he is, and whether or not the Lions change things schematically on defense under new coordinator Kelvin Shepard, it's safe to say every Lions fan will be happy to have a fully healthy Anzalone heading into the upcoming season. So my question here for you, Will, do you anticipate that the Lions will continue to play a high percentage of man coverage defensively with Shepard taking over as the defensive coordinator?
It's a loaded question because we don't know what we don't know right now. I do expect, just from the signings alone, I expect man, right? You don't bring DJ Reed in because you're expecting to run zone. You don't bring in Terry and Arnold last year because you expect to run zone. They have man press corners on this team. It would be idiotic to go and change that all up. I'm not saying that they can't run zone. I'm not saying that they can't play zone. They absolutely can. But I think that this team has been predicated on aggressive man defense with a zone scheme kind of mixed in. And you might have multiple versatile type of scheme where you're doing a little bit of both on each play. I honestly am thinking that we might see the 4-2 a little bit more or a 5-2 a little bit more. But more importantly, I think that we might see the nickel just a little bit more this season. When I go back and look at what the Lions are doing last year, sometimes it just didn't make any sense to me on the defense when you're blitzing so many guys and you're forcing your linebackers to be in coverage. Why would you put your linebackers into so much coverage when maybe you can let Alex do his thing. You can let Jack do his thing. Bring in an extra DB. Bring in an extra safety even that's a little bit bigger, right, than a DB. And then you have more coverage ability. So you drop that safety into the box. And, you stack them next to the linebackers and you have more ability to play zone or to put them in more of a zone scheme. You're still rushing 4, at the front. And that's the goal this year, I think, is to try to win with 4. But that doesn't mean that you have to risk your linebackers to always drop into coverage because they got eaten alive last year. I know that they played the most snaps or some of the most snaps, whatever the article said would say Alex Anzalone is 48.5%.
Yeah, led the league.
Who's NWE?
That's New England. Christian Ellis. I don't know why I put NWE. Should just be and
Any. So Christian Ellis played 47.4, Malcolm Rodriguez 41.2, and Jack Campbell 39.1. I think that's a catastrophic failure. That you're putting those linebackers into more of a man coverage when they should be in more of a zone coverage. I'd rather see the linebackers in a zone coverage, where they're dropping back into coverage, but let's have some space here. Keep the tight ends under you, keep the running backs under you, in front of you, right? I think that we'll probably see a little bit more of that. That's my honest thinking right now. Again, I have no inside knowledge of what the hell Kelvin Shepard's going to do, but I still think it's going to be aggressive. I think it's going to be more man heavy like it has been, but I do see a mixture of zone for the linebackers and a little bit more nickel being utilized, more so than, being stubborn the other way. Less blitzing is what I also see. Less blitzing. How are we going to know this? We're going to know when we get into the regular season and we can go back and evaluate what they did last year versus this year. That's how we're going to know.
Yeah. That's a great answer. And to be honest with you, dude, that is kind of the answer I thought you were going to give. If I was thinking about, I feel like I kind of have a good feel for how Will thinks about a lot of things. Sometimes I'm still completely stunned. I'm like, oh, damn, okay, it's even better than what I had in mind. But it makes sense because you're bringing back all these all three of those guys are coming back. So you just say, well, yeah, they're going to keep doing the same thing. Not necessarily. And they're not asking Kelvin Shepard, I'm sure, to just keep status quo. You got to be able to coach it your way. And yeah, so we'll see, man. And that makes it all the more interesting too when the season starts to see what it looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys in the chat have any recommendations for a good park in the Allen Park, it doesn't have to be Allen Park, but around that area, that maybe does have a Frisbee golf, course that does allow, you to do whatever you want to do and has a spot maybe you can rent, for 100, 200 people. I have no idea how many people will show up, but I would expect at least 100. Let me know. Just email me, mailbag@rockdown.com. Obviously, I'll be doing some research today. So it's 10:01. It is Friday. We've gone through a lot today. Is there anything you guys want to end with? I know that you had Jared Goff, Riley. If you want to go into Jared Goff, you absolutely can. Eric, you had a comparison to a giant human that was a Detroit Lion back in the day. Who was that? So we were talking about, Desmond Watson earlier being one of these, could be the largest man ever drafted by the NFL. Who was this Aaron Gibson?
So if you remember back in the day in 2001, so that's how long, some of us been watching the Lions. So Aaron Gibson, a former Detroit Lions draft pick, was at one time the heaviest player in the NFL history at 410 pounds. And I actually used to have one of his jerseys. The 6'6" lineman was drafted by the Detroit Lions in 1999 after running the 40-yard dash in an astonishing 5.3 seconds. Despite that surprising agility, Gibson's career was marred by injuries. After successive shoulder problems, Gibson was waived from the Lions in 2001. Yeah, that's when he left. And he was immediately claimed off waivers by the Dallas Cowboys, playing in their season finale. That year, Gibson became the first player officially listed at 400 pounds. A successive knee injury saw his release from Dallas in 2002, with his only full season coming with the Chicago Bears in 2003. After leaving the NFL, he bounced around the Arena Football League before hanging up his pads for good in 2010. Since his playing days ended, Gibson has transformed his body and gotten down to 290 pounds, shaving 14 inches off his waistline. And man, I remember thinking he was going to be the best. I thought he was going to be the best tackle you've ever seen ever. And at first he was really fun to watch, and then he kept getting hurt and he went on to other places. But man, that dude was a giant. He made Shawn Rogers and Ndamukong Suh look like little kids. He
Interesting.
was,
I don't remember Aaron Gibson. Did he
Really?
even play?
yeah, he was a starter. Yeah. I don't
I mean,
remember
it was
what round he
2001.
it was 99 when we drafted him. He left in 2001.
Where was he drafted?
I don't know. Let me look it up here.
Yeah, on paper, he's coming up as 6'6", 375 pounds.
Yeah, he was a first round pick.
Out of Wisconsin. He was a first round pick?
Yeah.
Yeah,
What?
1999, 27th overall. The Lions took him.
I do
That's a
not
big-
remember Aaron Gibson.
Really? Oh,
They-
he was one of my favorite players for a while.
They called him the hungriest man on earth. You know what's crazy? I'm looking at a picture of him right now. This is nuts. Hold
Yeah.
the phone.
Huge.
No. This doesn't look huge at all. This is insanity. Because it reminds me of Penei Sewell, who's a massive human and just complete washboard. Look at this. Look at this dude. Here we go. Tell me he doesn't look no 375 pounds.
Yeah, but look at that picture next to him where he's wearing
Right.
number
But,
71.
I mean, look, he's just shredded now.
Yeah, I have that exact same picture up on my thing. He was not like that when he
Yeah.
played for the Lions.
God, he reminds me of Giovanni. He looks like Giovanni Manu.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Doesn't
he does. He does. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh,
if
you
look
learn something new every day, I guess. I don't remember Aaron Gibson. That's
at-
crazy.
Really? Wow.
I'm gonna have to go
Yeah.
back and watch some games now.
Yeah.
I have to dig into the old archives.
Yeah. Go watch a game from 99 or 2000.
Yeah, mailbag, Brandy. So mailbag at Rockdown, because that way I can, because I can never find stuff in the chat. Like, it's hard to go back and try to find anything in the chat. That's why it's best to always email.
Wasn't 99 the year that Barry Sanders retired? Left the NFL?
Yes.
I believe so. So I would have seen Aaron Gibson, and he might. Man, I'm gonna have to go look and see if I can find pictures, because I got pictures with a bunch of the players that year at training camp,
Mm-hmm.
and he might have been one of the players that I got to meet.
Where was training
I
camp that
remember-
year? Was that up north?
Yeah, at Saginaw Valley.
Yeah,
State.
Saginaw Valley. Yeah.
Yeah, and I used to have his jersey for the longest time until it wore out, had holes in it, and threw it away.
That's pretty cool, man. All right, do you want to finish on your Jared Goff news, Riley?
Yeah, let's roll it. We've got Destin Adams from A to Z Sports put out a mock draft. Now, we've discussed on this show multiple times of late, in particular, the confidence that we all have in the Lions offense continuing their strong play. A big reason for that is the returning personnel. Now, had the Lions not re-signed Tim Patrick, I think I would have been in favor of selecting a wide receiver early in the draft. But despite wide receiver not being considered one of the biggest needs on this roster, Destin Adams' mock draft has the Lions selecting Missouri receiver Luther Burden. Now, at one point, Burden was viewed as the top wide receiver in the 2025 NFL draft class, but production regression in 2024 dampened his hype to a degree. In 2023, Burden recorded an impressive 1,200 yards receiving and 9 touchdowns with 86 receptions. In 2024, those numbers dropped to 676 yards and 6 touchdowns on 61 catches. Question for you, Will. I know you dig deep into the draft. I know that you've cooled a lot on the Arizona receiver,
Yeah.
McMillan, a lot. Do you see Luther Burden as a first-round pick? And how would you guys feel if the Lions, I think it'd be shocking if they took a receiver at 28 overall. I don't think it'd happen, but what do you think about Burden?
I definitely don't think the Lions would take a receiver in the first round. Not with the amount of defense that's available. If Ashton Genty slipped to 28, I think that they would take Genty, which would be crazy. So the question is, where do I have Burden?
Yeah, so it's kind of a two-part question. You just answered the one that they won't, but do you view Luther Burden as a first-round pick?
I may view him as first round potential, but I'm not so sure that he's going to go in the first round. And the reason why I say that is, I mean, he absolutely could, right? I think Matthew Golden. Let me rephrase all that. I think someone's going to take a risk on Egbuka, but I'm cooling off on McMillan and Egbuka. I think that they're going to fall a little bit. I think that Golden is going to be the first receiver off the board. I do think that Luther Burden could be the second receiver off the board, unless somebody really values Egbuka more than Burden, which, I mean, they're stylistically kind of the same football player. McMillan just, he did not, I mean, a 4.55 40, and I get it. Like, I'm not all about the straight line speed, but as a receiver, I think that it makes more sense that your 40 has to be a little bit better. Obviously, Amon-Ra St. Brown has proved everybody wrong with that. But the way that McMillan was catching the ball, I was not as impressive with his route running either. He can go up for 50-50 balls, but he doesn't, it's almost like he doesn't create the separation to win the rep. He will always constantly fight for footballs. And in the NFL, you are not going to be able to fight for footballs like that and be successful. Yeah, he's 6'5". He's 200 pounds. He's got some size. But I think that he's missing a few things. Golden, Burden, 1-2. Egbuka, probably at 3. Someone will take him. I think that Jaden Higgins could be a riser in this draft. I think that Jalen Royals could be a riser in this draft. I really like Jalen Royals, honestly. I think that Alec Ionamore could be a first-round pick in this draft. So it could be Golden, Burden, and Ionamore, and then Egbuka, Higgins, in that order. Maybe McMillan slides in the middle there somewhere. Someone will pick him up. Someone will make a mistake. I think the Savion Williams could be a riser in this draft. But I'm not going to give away all my nuggets. So that'll come out in the final draft. Put it this way, my mock drafts right now, yes, they are based on things that I think, but I'm not going to lead a horse to water in the first few mock drafts. I kind of go in a roundabout way to kind of talk about all these players, and then in my final mock draft, I'm going to give you exactly what I think. That's just how I do it, because what I noticed in the past is I would put things together and then the information gets stolen. All right, so not that I'm the only one that thinks a certain way, but there's certain things that people take without crediting. This year's member boxes, you guys will be getting these. Super Bowl pins.
Oh, nice. So
this should have been us, man. Should have been us. So this month's member boxes will be Super Bowl pins. That is going to be your piece of memorabilia this month. So if you guys haven't joined, wait till I get the new membership going on the other platform. If you want to join the elite box group, so those will be going out this week. All right, 30 seconds to you, Riley, then to you, Eric, and then we'll be done for the day.
Another great show. Thank you for being here, everybody, hanging out with us, supporting Will and the channel. Will, what time is the interview tomorrow with Scourton?
Yeah, it's supposed to be about 9 a.m. is the plan, so I'll be getting all the questions off to him today, and probably go back and forth a little bit on what we want to discuss. But my goal is to highlight, obviously, his son, and then get any more information that he wants to give us about some of these other prospects. But the goal is highlighting his son and Nick Scourton's potential in the NFL.
Yeah, I can't wait for that tomorrow morning live. So be sure to tune in to that, guys. And yeah, thanks for being here again with everybody. And we'll see. I'll be back on Tuesday.
Yeah. All right. Have a great day, man. Go sell some lifestyle.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Eric, 30 seconds to you, or however long you want to take. What's up for today? It's Friday.
So that's like when I do a YOOPERLITE stone picking tour. It's not a tour.
Yeah,
it's an experience.
That's right.
I take you out to dinner. I take you on a side-by-side ride. I do things with you and tell you stories that you'd never hear anywhere else. And everyone that's went with me wants to go again. and they go over and over and over again, and they can't wait for this year.
So do they ever find all the people that have been lost?
No. So those people are, you got to remember, Lake Superior is so cold it never gets warm enough for a body to float. They all sink to the bottom and then never found
He
again.
whines, he dines you, and then you disappear. No, I'm just kidding. I'm
Yeah,
just
so
kidding.
it's funny. So I got a story for you. So the first person I ever took YOOPERLITE hunting, right? I met them at the hotel here in Brimley, and it was a couple from Grand Rapids, Michigan. And the husband comes out, and the first thing he does, he comes out, like charges at me, and he's a little guy, you know, and might be like 5'7", and he comes walking right up to me, and he puts his finger in my face and says, "Now listen, we're both strapped. We both have conceal and carry. So don't think you're taking us out on Lake Superior, raping us, killing us, and taking all our money and dumping our bodies in Lake Superior."
Oh
'cause
my
it ain't
goodness.
anybody. And I'm like, whoa, what the hell, city people? And he's like, no, we're just joking. We got them for bears. And I'm like, we're not going to see any bears. You guys are good. And dude, they had the time of their life. And ever since then, I always tell that story every night about him coming out and putting his finger in my face and showing me his gun. I'm just like, oh my God.
That's nuts, man. But yeah, at least he was just trying to be funny.
Yeah, he was just trying to be funny. I'm great friends with him now. I've stayed at their house, and yeah, they come to all the rock shows and come see me. And that was back in 2017 or 18. I mean, this is a long time ago. Those were my very first people on Mother's Day. I took them out, and yeah, they had a blast.
Fun stuff.
Yeah, for Detroit Lions, man, we are in a great place right now. Brad Holmes is cooking. He's making it so we are not cap strapped forever. And I think he is getting ready to get something big done, like maybe a Hutch signing, something like that. He's going to announce by May 1st about these 5th-year options for him and JMO. So, yeah, let's just keep our ears to the ground.
Is May 1st the deadline?
Yeah, May 1st.
Yeah.
So right after the draft. So we're going to see what happens with the draft, see what happens on draft night. We can be patient. We don't have to have anything done before then. And it's all going to work out. It's all going to be awesome.
I would agree that whatever Brad decides to do, and I know I've been going back and forth with a few people, you know, after the Aiden video that I put out talking about his extension, Ian Rappaport. Again, part of the reason why I put that out is, you know, I've been saying that I think that Aiden needs to prove himself. And it's not that he needs to prove himself as Aiden. He needs to prove himself that he survived this injury and that he's going to be okay. The biggest bench test for me is what is he able to do up against Penei Sewell. I mean, that is the best test in the league. So OTAs, and I don't know if they're doing stuff right now. Like, you don't know. They could be saying, hey, Penei, come in for a workout with Aiden. Obviously, they'd have to do it at their own leisure, right? It's not like something they can demand of the football player. So bringing those guys in, and maybe they're getting some workouts that we don't see, that we don't know about, possibly. However, OTAs this year is going to be the first opportunity. Maybe Aiden shows up to rookie minicamp, you know, so he can get some work in, and maybe he does that. I think that'd be great if he can prove himself through training camp. I don't think it's just OTAs and you know, rookie minicamp. I think it's training camp that he's got to get out there. He's got to prove himself. And once he does that, I think that the deal will already be in place. This is what we're going to do if you can do this. And it's already done. So that way, before the season starts, they can get it signed and there's no issue for the rest of the season. The one misconception that I want to make sure that I cover is I hear, well, if we don't sign him now, it's only going to go up. His contract's only going to go up. I don't believe that, because there's no other deals that are going to get done between now and the first week of the football season. Trey Hendrickson's about it. If we think that Trey is going to get more than 40, I think we're nuts. I can't imagine that he's going to get more than 40. I think that he gets about 34-ish, 33-ish, somewhere in that range. And I think Aiden probably gets 31, 32, 33, somewhere in there. Call it 32 and a half. So whether it gets done today or it gets done in 4 months or 5 months, the number's not going to change. And that's what Ian Rappaport said the other day. He said that the scope, right, the value's not going to change. The timeline is going to change. And so that's what I agreed with too, but I've been saying that for weeks. So I'm glad that somebody that maybe people respect said the same thing. And I happened to catch it when I was listening to Pat McAfee, and I thought, what a perfect opportunity to have someone else tell Lions fans that I'm not crazy, that I think that these things matter. Why would you waste $160 million on the possibility that he's okay? Now, if the Lions did that tomorrow, then that means they've already tested him to the max and they know he's good to go. It doesn't have to be against Penei Sewell. They've got other ways of testing him, I'm sure. So at the same time, Eric, I mean, I don't think you want to rush it, right? It's not like you want to rush the guy.
And him and Khalil Dorsey had the exact same injury. And Khalil Dorsey's walking around without a limp. And I don't know if Hutch is walking without a limp anymore. Now, he was in a golf tournament last weekend and stuff, so we'll see. But the last time
did he actually play, though?
Yeah. And the last time that we actually saw anything from Hutch was him running across a football field, and you could tell he was limping.
Oh, yeah.
In that run. I mean, he's running, but
it was the hitch.
Yeah. And anything I've seen from Khalil Dorsey, he looks normal and he's doing all sorts of workouts. So,
so the fracture, if I remember correctly, from Aiden was the tibula fibula.
Yep.
Dorsey's was a little bit more of the distal side, closer to the ankle. So Aiden's was more up, right? It was further up towards the knee, whereas Dorsey was more at the ankle. Like his ankle kind of like snapped in half, right where the tibia fibula are. So a little bit different, same but different, if you will.
Yeah.
I don't know which one's worse, honestly.
I don't either.
Yeah. I don't know if that one guy that I think he writes for Pride of Detroit, Dr. Lau.
Liao.
Is it Liao or Lau?
Yep. No, he pronounces it Liao.
Liao. I wonder if he did a comparison.
I don't know. I could reach out and find out.
Yeah, I don't even know how to get a hold of him. I tried to figure it out the other day.
Yeah, I talk to him on X all the time.
Ask him.
Yeah.
Yeah, see if even ask if he wants to come on. Talk about it.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, cool, man. Look, y'all been great. You know that. Love it. Love what you guys do. Please like, share, subscribe. Most important thing is subscribe. I don't even know where we're at, but we're trying to give helmets away. Are we at 9,000?
We're getting close.
It's like not updating on my side. It keeps saying like 8.87, but then I look at another area and it says that it's 89 plus
for a while.
Yeah, like on this side, it says it's more than what it says on the other side. It's so dumb. Like none of their stuff jives.
No. I still haven't figured out the whole YouTube thing, on my YOOPERLITES one. I mean, I have a whole bunch of subscribers and stuff, and I've never done anything with it,
Well, I know someone that can probably help you with that.
Yeah, I have 16.8 thousand subscribers, but I've never I don't do much with it. I do more on Facebook and Instagram and stuff. So
letting it sit idle is the worst thing, but
yeah, I know.
Like my other channel for what was Lions content. Oh, that's someone calling. Little late to call. We close that stuff down. But anyway, look, you guys have a wonderful weekend. I could just sit here and babble for hours. There's really not a whole lot that's going to be happening between now and the draft other than talking about some prospects. So I know for the last few weeks I've been wanting to get into more of prospects. So I'm going to start that tomorrow morning with a conversation with Nick Scourton or Scorton's dad and have the conversation about him. But then next week we're going to be highlighting more prospects. So each day we'll probably pull down 3 or 4 prospects and talk about them. So that's the goal from here on out, is highlighting the draft, and then whatever happens in between that time, we'll talk about that too. So against all odds, man, that is this year's motto. Eric, man, I hope you have a great weekend.
Yeah, I'm going to watch me some UFL football tonight at 8 o'clock, and then I'm going to watch the Panthers at noon on Sunday.
Man, Panthers are at noon on Sunday.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll do a watch party for that.
I'll jump in.
Yeah, we'll do a watch party for that or something. We'll have some fun with it. And
Yeah.
maybe I'll do that on the Michigan Panthers channel that I really haven't done anything with. Maybe I can just do it that day.
Yeah.
All right. Y'all have a wonderful weekend. Go One Pride, go Detroit Lions. We'll see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye. I still don't have an outro.
They give it to Jameer. Big hole. There he goes down to the 20-yard line. Angling to the 15. Gone, baby. 5. End zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. 25 yards.